I think we're live already. I don't know if you can see us live, but good morning. This is Michelle Oliver, and happy Wednesday to whoever's seeing this. I am really excited today to be here with my colleague and friend, Bethany Salter. And I really just want everyone that I know to meet Bethany because we are doing some amazing things together. And I want to share a little bit about, actually, I want you to share, Bethany, a little bit about who you are and how you wound up getting into this whole coaching thing because you've been doing this for a while. So welcome. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so glad that we met. Like, it's so great that we get to do this together. Yeah, the coaching thing. I have kind of a crazy, I call my story a roller coaster story because it's kind of a long one. So I'll try and condense it here. But yeah, I've been doing coaching, gosh, how long has it been? So I became we'll call myself a certified coach since 2016. So that's when I really got started. But I got into coaching after I got divorced from my son's father. And it was crazy. I ended up meeting somebody else, falling in love again, getting engaged, and then he ended up committing suicide. And I was so grateful that I had been in this coaching program because it was honestly the thing that got me through that. And what was really, really cool about it is I ended up using all of the tools that I learned in this coaching program. And I always call them like, they're the self-love tools, right? Like, it's always coming back to like the way that you feel about yourself and everything. And I used all these tools to help me like get through. That was probably one of the hardest things in my life. Right. And
Bethany,
and then
actually, I have to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Because anybody, like, you've been through this, you've come through it from the beginning to being completely healed on the other side of that. And I think every time someone new hears this, like the first time I heard this, I was like, wait a second, I'm not hearing anything you're saying because I'm still back at what the heck happened to you? And so I do want to take a minute and maybe go back a little bit to to who you were. And this is a huge big deal. So anybody that happens to be listening that has gone through something like that, and it could be any kind of grief, but that's a pretty big thing. And I think it kind of stops people in their tracks and they might need a second to process that. And I also want to say, like, when you look at Bethany, I think you look like the most beautiful Disney princess on the planet, but do not be misled because this woman is also like on the top of cranes, like physically, literally building her house. So, and she's raising like pigs and horses and stuff and tromping through the mud in her boots. So she has done it all. And when you're talking about what happened with your husband, like, I think we need to go back a little bit. Are you okay with that? That's a big thing. Yeah.
It is a very big thing. It was, I mean, grief is a hard one, right?
Right.
Grief is such a hard one for people, and some people never get through it. Some people really just, I know people personally that have, it's like they've never been able to move through that grief and they stay stuck in it, which is, just so heartbreaking because it is the most horrible place to be in, right? In that space of just, I mean, so the fact that I was able to move through things, and I feel like I did fairly quickly, actually, too. In fact, I ended up being lucky enough to meet my current husband, who is amazing. And so his wife passed away, and we feel like that they actually brought us together from the other side. I know this sounds a little crazy to some, maybe, but we really had some pretty amazing experiences, and it's really helpful to be with people who understand what you've been through, right? Like that's one of the things that I love about, like, with the coaching industry, for example, is you can find a coach who's been through what you're going through, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, it was like, And in this case, I mean, I already had my coaching stuff I was doing, but like having, my partner in life knowing and understanding my grief, and that it was okay for us to grieve our people, right? To grieve our past loves. Like, I dated other people who would be like, well, when are you going to get over it? Like, you just need to get over it. So I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
yeah, it's like, you don't ever get over it. Like, you don't, your life changes. You don't get over it. And hopefully your life, you don't remain in that horrible space. Right. Which, yeah, I mean, but anyway, so yeah, it's a pretty big thing to go through, especially suicide, because, I think with suicide, you always question, right? You always think, what could I have done? What could I have done different? How could I have stopped it? I mean, it's like always all of those thoughts of like, almost like blaming yourself. Like, what should I have done? What could I have done? Like, you always have those questions in your head, until you can get to that space of, understanding, and this is going to sound really weird, but understanding the gift in it, and understanding that they had a choice too. And I literally like came to this place of like, where I literally saw that myself and my fiance who passed away, and my current husband and his wife who passed away, like, I saw this place where we had all chosen this, to go through this and have this experience here. And it's not, again, that sounds really weird, but it was like this really cool place of, almost like a peaceful place of, I get it on some level, right? I get it. And it doesn't have to be in this horrible thing anymore, right? It doesn't have to be this like painful, horrible space all the time. So yeah, so that's kind of like the, I guess, the mini version of.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute, because there's so much there to unpack, honestly. I'm listening to you from a few different perspectives. Okay. Like, first of all, like, I just want my friends to know you because she's worth it. And also we're collaborating on some coaching programs together. And so I just hear so much value in who you are, because like you mentioned, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but when you are working with a coach, there's all kind, and this is not a sales pitch, but I can't help talking about it a little bit, because when any of us are working with a coach, if there is a disconnect between like who we are and who they are, because there's no shared common ground, it can be very, very alienating. And I've experienced this myself, where it's like, you can't really pinpoint exactly what's wrong, but somehow there's like a disconnect, and you're just not feeling completely heard or understood or accepted. Or maybe you're feeling sometimes locked in to the trauma and not able to move forward. So I think that this simple thing that you're sharing, it's not, I mean, it's complex, but it's a distinct point, can make all the difference in the world for someone. Like, the fact when you're saying these things, like, I know it sounds a little crazy. Actually, it sounds like you've made the journey. You've made a total journey, a complete circle, which allows you to lead other people. So, yeah, I think it's brilliant. And I appreciate you just being really honest about your perspective on that, because that's what allows you to lead other people to a more expanded possibility that maybe they don't even know exists. So yeah, pain to possibility again, right?
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because it is huge. Because even like I was saying before, and I know that we probably all know somebody that is still stuck in a grief space, and there is no time limit, right? There's no time limit on it. However, there does seem to be like, okay, when do you want to feel better, right? Like we can stay stuck in our pain as long as we want.
Yeah.
And there's pain in everything. There really is. You can find pain in everything. And the other thing is too, is like, I feel like some people stay there because they feel like if they get out of the pain, that they don't care about the person they lost anymore, or there's some sort of thing with that. And it's like, that is not the truth. We don't have to stay stuck feeling awful, feeling like, it's our fault, feeling like that we don't care if we end up being happy again, or if we end up, feeling better. It's like, it's quite the opposite. And I really do get that our passed on loved ones, that they want more than anything for us to be happy and thriving, and knowing that they're fine where they're at. They're just on their next part of their journey. And honestly, what if they chose to leave this planet at that time for a purpose, whether it was a suicide or not, right? Like, what if that was all part of their journey, and it was part of your journey? And it's like, now we get to learn from it and find the beauty in it, as odd as that sounds. Find the beauty and the gifts in it, because there really are, and you can find it. And it's like, I don't know. It's a crazy way to look at it from one perspective when you're in it, but when you can come through the other side, it's like, okay, wow, yes, there's so much that can be, that you can find, like I said, the beauty in things, right? And
yeah, Bethany, I mean, that's such a powerful thing. And I do want to comment on that, because having that ability, what did you call it? A radical, or I don't know what word you used, but crazy. You used the word crazy. And the idea of crazy, like Bethany and Tiffany and I are doing some programs together, and a lot of it is about play, like transformational play, right? Moving from point A to point B through this more ease than like hustle mentality. So when you say crazy, the first thing I think is that's a positive, because it's basically a radical, and you talk about paradigms a lot, right? So it's like a radical paradigm shift, which might feel crazy. And we all know when crazy people think we're crazy, that's a plus, right? Because you're moving in the right direction. So for you to be able to make that mental shift and reframe everything and be open to this new paradigm and new possibility, that's why you're so capable of doing it in all these other things that I know about your life that our audience doesn't know yet. But it's almost like that set the foundation for you to trust more in the process, right? Is that accurate? I mean, it's truly remarkable. And many people never get over it. Never.
right.
It's understandable. So
Right.
big
Exactly.
thing.
And I don't want to take away from people's pain and say that it's not valid. I mean, it absolutely is. Your pain is valid. What you're going through is valid, and nobody can tell you how long it should take for you to feel a certain way. I just like to be the invitation that there is something different and something better, and that, not only can your life get better, in every way, but you can feel better, and it's okay for you to feel better, and it's okay for you to be happy and to move forward and do great things and enjoy your life in spite of a huge loss. Like, it's okay. And that's really the message that I, want to share. And what I found is when people do come through these huge things, they do end up doing incredible things in their life. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, they end up being, I can't even think of an example, but just like they end up having such incredible experiences that they were like, wow, I get it. And then they look at things and find the gift, right? And see the things in a totally different light.
Yeah. So when you went through this formal certification program, did that assist you in that? Like, do you use elements of that now in your own coaching? Because I know it's kind of like we all are constantly learning and applying different things, right? But is that a big part of what you're bringing to your clients now?
And he actually, so the program I went through was a year-long coaching program. So it was very intense, very involved. And he actually decided to leave this planet about, I want to say it was about halfway through that program, a little bit. So I absolutely use the same tools through that. In fact, one of the things that I chose to do was, because I really, really wanted, when I, especially going to like the funeral and stuff, I really wanted to drink, and I wanted like some Xanax or something, right? Like to get me through it.
Stop feeling the pain.
Yes, yes. And I knew that I would not be happy with myself if I did that. So I chose to be sober moving through it and feel everything, because I was like, if I don't, it's going to come back and hit me harder later on down the road. And so I chose to do everything sober and move through it. And I feel like that was one of the best choices that I made to help me get to a better place with it. Besides the fact, then I didn't have to worry about like, because in those kind of situations, it's really hard to, you have some drinks or you take something to feel better. And that's when it's so much easier to get addicted and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to say, like, and I'm sorry, I know I just interrupted you. Here's my question for you, though, helping people through this, because I know that grief can come like a tsunami in the strangest environments. So to step forward into that without any numbing is like you are putting yourself into like the arms of faith, right? Because you're trusting that there is something on the other side. I know this is a deeper conversation, but I can't help bringing it up. So I know that we can also really get addicted to the negative looping, right? To those emotions of, yes, it hurts, but we don't know how to quickly get out of that often enough. So it can become like an emotional addiction to the debilitating emotion of grief. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's a really good point. You definitely can. And I think that's one of those things where you have to really step into like the awareness of what it is that you're doing and what you actually want. Like, what is it that what do you want to feel? Is this grief pain working for you? I mean, I guess if it is, okay, cool, keep doing it, right? Like, who am I to tell you not to? But I would imagine most people would probably be like, yeah, you know what? I'm really tired of feeling like this. I'd like to feel better. I'd like something different. And what's really, really great about it is when you actually can be aware, there's so many great tools to move you through that. And it doesn't have to be really difficult. The difficult part is actually feeling it and going through what you're going through. You've already been through the difficult part, and, one of the things too, I do, when you brought up kind of like how grief kind of comes at you kind of out of nowhere and stuff, and it really does. It comes in waves, and one of the things I noticed is like the year, it's like the year mark of their death date always seems to be like a really hard one for everybody. It's like all of the shock has worn off over the year, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's actually real. They're not coming back. Like,
yeah.
And one of the hardest times is like a year later, and people who haven't gone through it are like, they would be like, what? It's been a year. Like, why are you so upset? It's like, so that can time to really look, yeah, to really allow yourself to go through those feelings. It's really a kindness to yourself, right? Like allowing yourself to have the feelings and emotions, not judging it. Even if you're out in public and I don't know how many times I burst out in tears out in public because some random thing, right, like came to me, and I was like, okay, I can't help it. I'm just like, like sobbing. I'm just going to sob. And if people look at me, it's okay, and like most of the time people are just like, are you okay? Right. Like they care, but you just have to have that kindness with yourself. And like, it's okay that if you do something that normally you'd feel embarrassed about, it's okay. And you can move through it. And you will, right? So I don't know. That's just one of the things that I noticed was a big deal, to move through at that point. and get
Yeah. I think there's so many things that can trigger you, and you've got like these timeline markers that
yeah.
show up, right? That maybe consciously you're not even aware of, and then all of a sudden you're in there again. So I just I think it's incredibly valuable, the things that you've been through. And I know that's just one. And I didn't mean to put all the time on there, but maybe somebody is listening today that just needed to hear that or connect with you on that. So I think everything happens for a reason. So let's go into, can you share a little bit about and then it's incredible because you got married. Okay. And that's a big thing. Like, then you have this new relationship. So there's this whole how to navigate this very unique relationship. And what else do you want to share? There's so many things you could share about your life. Like,
Yeah. Well, I definitely, after that happened, I was like, I am never getting married again, right? Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going through, like, I had those things like, I'm never doing that again. And I just, my whole life purpose at that time was really my journey, my self-love journey, being okay, being by myself, really healing all of those pieces of me, that clearly were not healed in the past, and that were up in my face, especially during these hard times. And and honestly, it was only about a year and a half later that I met my husband now. And honestly, that was like, it was such a wonderful thing. Like, when he actually started talking about marriage, and I was like, you know what? I am not like completely turned off by that idea. That is so strange. And
that's such a funny way of saying it. I'm not completely turned off by that. Maybe there's something I should look at a little more deeply.
So I'd like to talk other, because there's so many of us, right? A lot of us have been through relationships after relationships, or have been through divorces, and and we tend to get jaded in it. It's like, oh, so tired of this. But here's the other part of it, you guys. The thing about it is, it's all about you and your relationship with you. And the reason why you're tired of it is because you haven't healed those parts of you, and you keep attracting the same kind of guy, right? Or the same kind of woman, right? Whatever it is. And it's like the same relationship crap, like for me, it was like, I don't know how many times I like got cheated on, right? Cheated on. And like, I was like, okay, what in the world is happening here? And so you get this opportunity to become aware of where you're functioning from with your own self-love, with the way you feel about yourself. And you get the opportunity to go in and heal that, so that other people can show up for you in a beautiful way. So let me give you a really awesome example. Like, it's a tangible example that sounds really crazy. But
I love that everything you say sounds crazy. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't sound crazy.
Sounds transformative. It sounds playfully transformative.
There we go. I need to have like better wording. So after my fiance passed away, one of the things I loved was getting text messages from him. We just, like, the text message thing was for whatever reason, was a big deal to me. So when he passed away, it was like, I ached so bad to get a text message from him, right? Like, I was like, oh, I just want to hear from you. And so what I did was I started text messaging myself as if it was from him. And I would literally, like, I would go into my heart space, and I would be like, okay, what would he say? What would I want him to say to me right now? And I would type it out and feel like it was really from him. And I would literally send it on my phone. Right.
Yeah.
And
I love that, by the way, and I'm going to interrupt you again, but this is why, like, when we are talking about transformational, playful things, this is a great example of something really unique that helps you move into the next opportunity for you. Like, that's so creative and so out of the box, and how that affects your body and your subconscious and your heart and everything. It's like immediate alignment. You're choosing to use a negative thing that could be a trigger and turn it into a positive. So I just want to call out on that brilliant tactic.
No, thank you for saying that, because that is the perfect preface to what I'm going to tell you happened after that.
Okay.
So after I started doing that, and I got myself back into alignment, is what I call it, right?
Yeah.
And what started happening is my friends would start texting me almost the exact same text message I sent to myself,
Wow.
like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. I miss you. How are you doing? And I would be like, what in the world? I just sent almost the exact same text to myself as if it was from him. And people started meeting me where I was at in the physical. Okay. So that is what is so magical, and why I keep calling it kind of crazy, because it's really magical. It's like, and I have a lot of different things that I do around that kind of work, right? Where you're really getting yourself into alignment there and doing these simple, really simple things. I mean, it just seems silly. They're so simple, yet they're so powerful, so powerful. And they make you feel
Yes.
so much better.
Yeah, it made you feel better. And you know what? You start
Yeah.
seeing a new reality. Like we all, so I just want to keep bringing it back to this basis that we really are presenting in everything we're doing about play. Because do you see how you didn't like, she didn't have to like enhance her suffering, you know? It's like there is emotion, everything is about movement and motion. And if you play these games of like, okay, I'm in a movie, this is the screen, this is the script, what is this person going to say to me? It's actually scientific, but it feels magical and you're doing it. So to your point, like when you say, Bethany's like, it's all about you, and we always want to say immediately, our brain is like, no, it's actually all about what he did to me, or what they did to me, or what happened in my childhood, or whatever. And not to discount it again, like we're not
Right.
discounting anybody's pain or trauma or abuse, or that's all really a real experience. And yet there's a way out. And that's what you're offering people. And then you have, I love that. That's so fun. Okay. So relationships. And then what was the next big, then you had some health issues, right? After
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I get married. I had the most beautiful, amazing wedding, and felt like, okay, my life is perfect now. I went through hell, and my life
Yeah.
is perfect now, and everything's gonna be perfect now. And yeah, and then I ended up having breast implant illness. So that was the next journey that I went on, where I literally had to go to the depths of hell again with my health. And by the
Wow.
way, it was so interesting because it was just like the next level of self-love for me, right? This time it had to do with my appearance and how I had identified with, what I look like being my value and my worth, and the thing that made me worthy and lovable, and which is so crazy. But how many of us, specifically women, I think, do we do that? It's like we're in this program of what we look like and how we can't have wrinkles, and we have to have big boobs or perfect boobs or whatever, right? Like we have to look perfect, we have to have we have to have the perfect eyelashes, and all the things, and it's like it's done. Yeah, it's so far from the truth of who we are that it's like I had to really be shown that in a very painful way. So
Yeah,
that
this
was
is such a long conversation. As you're speaking, I'm having so many thoughts. Yeah, you're the only woman that's ever had this issue on the planet. I think it's so crazy, Bethany. It is crazy is the word. But as you were speaking, I was thinking about how, like, as little girls, we grow up. I mean, it's funny that I'm working with you now and I keep calling you the Disney princess, because even when I was, I don't know, 10 or 9 or something little, and I remember thinking, like, if only, like, the man will love me, because at that time, things change and they're really changing now. But during that time, it was always like everyone was a perfect blonde princess. And I thought that I was actually like a Native American. Not that there's anything wrong. Like I really embraced the whole culture. But at the time, like my mom was really into teaching us about the Native American culture, which I loved. But I just thought, actually, I guess that's who I am. And then I would go there and I didn't fit in there. And it's like, it's so silly. But we're conditioned in these ways. And I always thought if I was only blonde, I would meet the right prince, and then I could leave my family. Like we project these delusions. And for women, it really is, or at least it was, and I think it still is, about appearance. It's not about accomplishment so much. It's really like if you can create this mask or this container, then maybe you can give yourself permission to actually be who you are within that, right? And then if that's stripped from you, how did you deal with that? Like for you, it was the breasts and whatever else, but that all of a sudden that's gone. What do you do? How did you do that?
Well, so honestly for me, and this is really, it's another vulnerable space to talk about, because I literally almost ruined my marriage because of it. I pushed my husband so far away that I almost did. And because I was trying to, I wanted to be the victim, right? I wanted to blame him for not loving me if I didn't have big enough boobs, right? Which is it, like the whole thing, like when I talk about it, when I say it, I'm like, it's so insane. And he was like what? He's like, I love you, I don't care, I want you to be healthy, like I don't care. And so it was like, oh, I mean, I literally had this made up story in my head about what it was. And it was like on top of that, and I had a lot of health issues going on, and I became a hermit. It was hell. It really was hell. I had to go to the depths of hell again. But this time it was just, movable stuff. And, and I think the physical stuff it's still a process, right? Like I still want to look good. I still want to feel like I look good. The difference is I'm realizing that this is just we'll call it my body avatar. It's not who I am, right? My appearance is not who I am. And that I have value and worth, and I am loved regardless of what I look like. And in fact, my husband has been the greatest gift for that. Like I used to like always have to have makeup on, and he loves it when I don't wear makeup, right? And he's always posting these what I think are the most horrible pictures of me on social media. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to let you keep that picture up. I think it's terrible, but you know what? It's real. It's like, sometimes I just don't look very good, and it's okay. And like, I want us all to feel comfortable in our skin, whether it's the standard of beauty or not, right? Like just to be comfortable and happy and love ourselves and love life, not in our heads all the time about, is this good enough? Am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Is my body skinny enough, or whatever, is my butt big enough? Or
it's such a lie, isn't it? And so as you're talking, I was just thinking about how like what we often do as women is it's also a way to not look at the reality of what's going on, right? Because we can keep thinking, well, if only there's so many things you're supposed to fix, right? So, and now everything's changed. So now you're not supposed to be super skinny. You got to have a big butt. You got to have boobs. You got to have curves. You got to have, I mean, it's like, oh my God, how can, it's so, here's our word again, crazy. But when you're doing that, like what we're really doing is closing ourselves off from the intimacy that's possible for us, right? Like like you said, I wanted to be the victim. At some level, we want to be saved, or, we want you to prove that you love me, instead of like just loving ourselves, like, here's what I am. And how amazing, like when you're talking about your husband putting up the pictures, so often men are like that. They're like, I want to see you natural. Like they crave intimacy. And yes, they might want other stuff at other times or whatever, but it's all a part of who we are. All of it is okay. And I don't know that we're quite there yet. Like, we're on the road and on the journey. So I just want to give you a huge thank you, Bethany, for being so willing to share all of these really vulnerable, intimate, like private parts of what you've gone through in your life. And that not only gives other people permission to deal with it, but opportunities to like understand, oh my gosh, I can do it in ways that maybe aren't like more trauma, like plastering on more trauma, like now I can never date again, or now I can never get married, or, now I have to work for another decade to have the perfect butt, or whatever it is.
Right.
You're amazing.
Thank you for saying.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I guess I chose a challenging lifetime, and I'm okay with that, and I know that we all have our challenges. I'm really no different than everybody else. Everybody else just might have a little different story. We've all had our trauma and our hardship, and we've all felt the same things. That's the thing we have to realize. We're really not that different. Our stories might be different, but we're all feeling and going through very similar things. Nobody gets out of planet Earth traumatized. I say planet Earth is traumatizing is really what it is. But but there's there's ways to get through that trauma and really live in heaven on earth. And I've experienced that too. I've experienced the highest of highs as well, and like natural highs. And I'm not talking about like getting drinking or drugs or anything like that. Like for real, having like why this amazing.
Yeah, like share something with us. Like, what's something that comes to your mind? You should see what she's doing now. Like, I think this is amazing. She's not even talking about, she's like building her dream home physically, like personally out there, like building her dream home in the middle of taking care of like farm animals and raising kids and stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
is that heaven, Bethany, or is that hell? Like, I'm not sure.
It depends on the ask. It's just, some days it's wonderful, and other days I'm like, get me out of here. I don't want to see another animal. I don't want to take care of another animal. No, I do love it. I do. Like I also have it's life, right? There's always going to be stuff. But I do have to say, like being around animals is really amazing. Like I always heard that my whole life, but I was always like scared of animals, and I was allergic to a lot of different animals. And so, when my husband and I were talking about doing this, I was like, okay, well, I don't know anything about animals. He does. Like,
he's really? Horses. I didn't know that. He didn't know either. So you just created this farm menagerie and learned it.
Yeah. So he knew a lot more about animals. He's had horses and stuff before. He worked on a ranch. So for him, it wasn't like completely new. Now there's still a lot of newness. We have all sorts of animals. We have
every day is a new,
Yes. Every day it's like one of them is figuring out how to get out of the pasture or get out of wherever. And, it's fun. It's fun. And I love goats. Goats are the cutest, and they're little stinkers at the same time. But so anyway, I mean, as far as just the experiences, doing this it's been crazy. We're building our dream home. I'm hoping to have it finished, before winter this year. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I forgot, you asked me a question.
I was asking, I'm sorry, I got off on this animal thing because I think it's so fun and amusing from afar. We've had some funny conversations about creatures, insects, which also seem insects kind of literally ride on the back of animals. So we've had some interesting conversations about that. But no, the question was the heaven on earth. So since we spoke about the pain, what are a few of these moments? Because sometimes they come in moments, And
Right.
sometimes there are long stretches like a wedding or something, you know?
Yeah,
So what are these
absolutely.
moments of heaven?
Yeah, I love that you said that because most of the moments are just smaller moments, right? They're just the time when you actually just can be really present and realize, wow, everything, there is nothing really wrong right now, right? And everything is beautiful. And you look around, like, especially where I'm at, it's so beautiful. We have these, I'm in Utah, so we have these beautiful mountains, and you can see the lake from where I live. And it's just like beautiful scenery. And I can just sit there and just appreciate what is all around me, right? But definitely my wedding to my husband now was absolutely, it was the most perfect wedding. You know, like when we actually eloped, I mean, we eloped, but we did like a real wedding just for us. So it was just us. In fact, I said, right, I was so sad that we didn't have everybody there because it was so perfect. We got married in Barbados, and it was just the most
Oh, I
perfect
love
weather.
Barbados. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was, that was like so absolutely heaven on earth, magical. Everything was perfect. The scenery, the food, the everything. Like that was definitely heaven on earth moment for sure. You know, the other heaven on earth moments I've really um been aware of is like with my son, right? Like these things, like I remember being younger and not really appreciating being a mom as much. And, you know, and I've been able to like stop and be like, oh my gosh, I love being a mother, and I love, my son is amazing. Like, you know, and now, like, because of my husband, I get to be a grandma. So I have grandbabies, and it's so fun to be around them and, you know, be called grandma. And it's just like, it's the greatest, right? Like just these experiences that like I don't know, I probably would have taken for granted before, but now I'm like, this is what life is about. It's about these experiences, about the beauty, it's about the people, it's about the things that you love, and really, you know, really being aware that you can have that in any moment, you know, as long as we're getting out of our head and out of our story.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say that same thing. I keep interrupting you, but I love what you're sharing. So I was just going to say exactly what you started to say, which is you focus a lot, like in the workshops that we're doing together and the coaching and all of that, on head and heart alignment. And so I was thinking when you were sharing that your heaven moments come from the heart, right? So everything you're sharing is like heart moments. And then all of this clearing that you're helping people with and healing is the head. And it seems so simple, doesn't it? And yet,
And on,
thanks to
well,
our,
it is,
yeah,
it really is. It's a matter of like, it's a matter of knowing and being aware, because it really is simple. We don't have to make it hard. It doesn't have to take a long time. And I really wanted to like cut you off and say that, because people do think that, you know, oh, it's got to be this, you have to do what I did and go to the depths of hell. You don't. You
yes.
don't need to do that. Maybe some people will, you know, but you don't have to. You can move through it a lot easier. And, it's however you do it is going to be perfect for you, right? Your journey is going to be perfect for you. And you don't need to compare yourself to anybody else's journey. Your journey is perfect for you. And I'm sorry, I cut you off now.
No, that you're absolutely right. And you speak often about this new paradigm that everyone has an opportunity to be aware of. And that's all I was going to say is thanks to our head, we think it takes like 40 years to move from the head to the heart, when in fact, it's the most natural thing in the world. And this is why we incorporate all these this transformational play thing. Like, you guys, like, we are just so fun. You should come and meet all of us. And someday we'll all go to Bethany's place after she has like a shower on the roof or something, so we can have a retreat on the animal farm. So wow, you've been through so much. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's the plan. I would love to have everybody come out. I'm sorry, now I cut you off.
No, we will. So let's kind of wrap this up with two things, if you would. Like, one is just anything else you want to share that I didn't ask. And then secondly, I do want to ask you the question, like, what do you love most about coaching others? You froze. Oh no, you're thinking.
Yeah, I love, I love the transformation. I love to watch people like get it, that they too can have the transformation and they get the release, right? And then they just shift and their whole body and their whole being is just lighter. And all of a sudden they can have like joy again. You know, I love the transformation. To me, that is so, and then just playing, you know, like going into that playful space where the like that's I love, well, I love all of it, but those are probably my two favorite things.
And is there anything else you want to share? If not, I have more. I have one other question that came to my mind.
Oh yeah, I can't think of anything. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I can. Of course, I can. Always think of another thing to say or ask. But what I think is really important, and I'm bringing this up because I hear you always talk, not always, but often speaking about what you are doing for your own growth and your own energy shifts and your own health. And it's like you're always doing stuff. So talk a little bit about that and how important that is, just when you're, at least I know you believe it too, but when you're functioning as a coach and when you're talking to other coaches or looking for one, it's like one of the most significant pieces. Like, well, what are you doing for yourself growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do, and I also work with other coaches. Yesterday in particular, I went and had an energy body work session done on me. So yeah, in fact, we were supposed to come on yesterday, and after that session I had a huge release and I had to go take a nap and everything. So it was huge. And but I'm always trying to work on myself. And when I say work on myself, it's not always work. It's a lot of times like going to that playful space too, like, you know, getting out of my head and remembering that I can have fun with life too, and I can enjoy things, and, you know, and just really being the reminder to myself of what I would coach other people on, basically. You know, what would I tell someone when they're stuck in something? You know, what would I say to them, or what would my mentor say to me, or what would you say to me? You know, like just asking lots of questions and coming back into my heart space and being aware of what's going on and what I'd like to shift or what I'd like to experience. So yeah.
Oh, this has been so wonderful. And again, just thank you for being so open and transparent and willing. And this is one of the things I just love about you, Bethany, that you're just so present with what's happening. And you also have a really unique way of sharing empathy, but with boundaries. And I think that is a real, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't necessarily gifted to you. Someone's mowing the lawn outside my window. It wasn't necessarily gifted to you, but you gifted that to yourself by being willing to like grow and move beyond the boundaries that were restricting you. So you're really good at navigating that. And I'm just so honored to be working on some amazing projects with you. So thank you for being here today.
The feeling is so mutual. I'm so excited that we get to work together, and oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Thank you for like having me on and letting me talk about this stuff, because I know that when I share my story, it helps other people, and that's why I do it. You know, it's not because I enjoy talking about myself, because I really don't, especially stuff. I know it helps other people, and yeah, we would love for anyone to come and play with us, you know, whether they just join to listen to our conversations on the coaching corner, or they come and work with us further. There's lots of different ways. And I would love for anybody who feels inspired and feels like they're, you know, resonant with us to come and join us.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It already is fun. So, all right, my love. Well, I have an appointment. I have to jump on. This time went by so quickly, and we'll be doing this often. So you have a beautiful day, and we will be back.
Yeah.
Ciao for
Okay,
now.
thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.